In 1996, New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani famously declared that the Feast of San Gennaro was now free of organised crime involvement. But, embarrassingly for Giuliani, just a few weeks after his statement, a Bonanno Family mobster was selected to become president of the Little Italy Festival. Let's check it out. Welcome to OC Shortz, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at how the Bonanno Crime Family helped control the famous Feast of San Gennaro, and how the Genovese family were keen to take it over. In September 1996, Rudy Giuliani, the then mayor of New York City, declared that the famous Mulberry Street San Gennaro Festival was free of mafia corruption. As one newspaper reported, Mayor Giuliani last night visited the San Gennaro Festival for the first time in 2 decades, saying the famed celebration had been freed of organised crime influence. The mayor, who named new festival sponsors after a probe found the previous organisers had alleged mob ties, dropped in on the 10-day festival's opening night. However, just a matter of weeks after Giuliani's bold declaration, a man called Perry Criscitelli was selected as the new president of the San Gennaro feast. Born in 1950, Perry Criscitelli was known as a wealthy restaurant owner. Over the years in Little Italy, he has owned the following eateries: Danico, Pellegrino's, and Il Palazzo. But Perry Criscitelli wasn't just a prosperous restaurateur when he was selected to become president of the Feast of San Gennaro. He was a man with heavy mob connections. Former Bonanno Crime Family captain turned informant Richard Cantarella would provide a bit of history on Criscitelli's mob career. Cantarella stated that Perry Criscitelli was a relative of longtime Bonanno family mobster Alfred Al Walker Embarato. Cantarella himself was the nephew of Embarato. Cantarella would testify that Perry Criscitelli started off as an associate of the Genovese crime family under Genovese mobster Albert Kid Blast Gallo. Kid Blast famously being a brother of Crazy Joe Gallo and a member of the infamous Gallo crew in the 1960s and early 70s. However, Cantarella states that Perry Criscitelli, who had become wealthy through restaurants and loan sharking, felt he was being extorted too heavily by the Genovese each month. Criscitelli's respected relative, Al Walker Embarato, had already retired from mob life by this point, and so Richard Cantarella stated that he attended sit-downs with Albert Gallo, and then Perry Criscitelli was released to the Bonanno family. Sources state that prior to being selected as the president of the San Gennaro Festival, Perry Criscitelli had been officially vetted, but his mob connections evidently weren't exposed. Embarrassingly for Rudy Giuliani, after his 1996 claims of no organised crime involvement in the Feast of San Gennaro, in 2001, Perry Criscitelli was officially inducted into the Bonanno Crime Family. And so, the then-serving president of the San Gennaro feast, a legitimate role, was now a soldier in the Bonanno Crime Family. Bonanno family boss Joe Massino was in attendance at Perry Criscitelli's ceremony. Perry Criscitelli was around 51 years old at the time and placed in the crew of Captain Richard Cantarella. Sources indicate that also in this crew were Paul Cantarella, Gino Galestro, Joseph J.B. Indelicato, Anthony J.J. Palmiotto, Joseph Sabella, and Joseph Torre. Ironically, Rudy Giuliani's favourite Little Italy restaurant that he dined at frequently was Danico, which was owned by Perry Criscitelli, as reported in one newspaper. Danico, 164 Mulberry Street, Manhattan. Former Mayor Rudy Giuliani chowed down on pollo masala and spaghetti puttanesca at this Little Italy joint, despite the fact that it's owned by reputed Bonanno soldier Perry Criscitelli. In fact, the mayor even appointed Criscitelli head of the Feast of San Gennaro. In the year 2000, the feds reported how Perry Criscitelli had tried to extort payment from a contractor who was wishing to handle the lighting for the famous Little Italy Festival. As one newspaper reported, prosecutors say in 2000, a rival contractor bid to handle lights at San Gennaro. Soon after, he got a call from Perry Criscitelli, then chairman of the Feast charity. Criscitelli told him he would have to pay approximately $75,000 to obtain the electrical contract for the feast. The victim refused to pay the additional money to secure the contract, and his bid was rejected, prosecutors say. In 2002, the FBI became aware that the president of the San Gennaro Festival was a Bonanno soldier, after Richard Cantarella had turned informant. But the feds didn't tell city officials. After Bonanno family captain Richard Cantarella became an informant, Perry Criscitelli would move to the crew of Vincent Vinny Basciano. In December 2003, Vinny Basciano was recorded by Bonanno mobster turned informant James Tartaglione saying, "I got Perry now." Vinny Basciano knew how much of a moneymaker Perry Criscitelli was. Basciano was recorded saying, "Perry is going to stay in the background. I told him, you ain't going to be used for nothing. Violence. You're an earner. You know there's shooters and earners. You're an earner. Get on your feet. Do what you gotta do." During Perry Criscitelli's time as president of Feast of San Gennaro Incorporated, the non-profit agency that ran the festival, there were 3 crime families sharing the spoils of the Little Italy celebration. They were the Bonannos, the Gambinos, and the Genovese. When acting boss Vincent Basciano was arrested for murder and racketeering, he met with official boss Joe Massino, who was also in the same jail. However, Massino had become an informant and recorded the conversations that he had with Basciano, including one which suggested that the Genovese family were trying to take control of the Mulberry Street Festival. Basciano indicated that Genovese mobster Ciro Perrone had sent word to him via another Genovese member, Salvatore Zucchi Esposito, that Perry Criscitelli was an informant. Basciano was recorded saying, "And Zucchi sent word that, Matty the horse, be careful. I met with Matty the horse and Dom. Be careful with Perry. Listen to me. Do you have proof? Do you have proof? Because they wanted Perry to be a rat. You want to know why? So they took over the feast. I said, Ciro, do me a favour. Stop circulating this guy's name as a rat. I checked it out. Until you have proof, let me know." Sources indicate that Perry Criscitelli had been erroneously labelled an informant, being confused with another restaurant owner in Staten Island, where Criscitelli also had another eatery. In July 2004, Perry Criscitelli resigned as president of the San Gennaro Feast after city officials finally learned that he was a soldier in the Bonanno Crime Family, despite it being in public federal court papers since 2002. As one newspaper reported, the feds knew for more than 2 years that the head of the Feast of San Gennaro was a Bonanno wise guy, but didn't tell city officials the Daily News has learned. Perry Criscitelli, who resigned as head of Feast of San Gennaro in Little Italy last month, was identified as a soldier in the Bonanno Crime Family in Brooklyn federal court papers made public back in October 2002. The identification was made by FBI agents according to the court papers, but the City Department of Investigation and the City Monitor for the Feast learned only last month that Criscitelli was mobbed up from the media reports from another trial. However, no charges could be brought against Criscitelli, despite the feds looking into his vast wealth. The New York Post reported, "Restaurateur Perry Criscitelli may face bigger problems than losing his post as president of the San Gennaro Feast. His alleged mob ties and lavish lifestyle are the subject of a federal probe," the Post has learned. The reputed Bonanno soldier has made no secret of his wealth. The massive oceanfront Staten Island home where he and his wife have lived for 3 years sits on a stretch of Nicolisi Drive that some locals call Millionaire's Row. The couple's stone house, unusual in its circular shape, boasts dramatic views of Raritan Bay and a 4-car garage, and came with a $2.94 million price tag, property records show. The grounds also feature a fountain and palm trees that must be replanted every spring. Criscitelli moved to Staten Island at approximately the same time he was inducted as a made member of the Bonanno Crime Family, authorities said. Within a month of Criscitelli's move into the posh neighbourhood, his stepson Nicholas moved into a smaller brick mansion across the street from him on Arbutus Lake. That home carries a market value of $1.5 million. The restaurateur is known to strut around Mulberry Street in Little Italy in Manhattan, wearing 14-carat gold-rimmed glasses, a diamond bracelet and rings. Earlier this year, Criscitelli and his stepson opened a new eatery, Perrone, at 3333 Highland Boulevard on Staten Island. The family's Staten Island homes are a far cry from Criscitelli's previous digs. A federally subsidized 2-bedroom apartment at 21 Spring Street in Manhattan that was intended for a low-income family. As the Post reported in 1999, Criscitelli drove a $190,000 Bentley, while paying less than $600 a month rent, thanks to the help from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Even after resigning from being president of the Feast, Criscitelli was allowed to set up a stand outside one of his restaurants, Danico, during the feast, as he had no criminal record. As one newspaper reported, despite the revelations, Criscitelli will be allowed to set up a vending stand during the feast outside Danico, where Giuliani has dined many times. Officials said only convicted felons are barred as vendors, and Criscitelli has never been convicted of a crime. In December 2004, Perry Criscitelli would kick up a $20,000 Christmas payment, according to his then-captain, Dominick Cicale, who would later become a cooperating witness for the government. Even as recently as 2020, Perry Criscitelli still had interest in restaurants down Mulberry Street, with his stepson Nick now running things. And they even added to their portfolio of eateries back in 2009 by purchasing SPQR. NBCNewYork.com would report, "We noted earlier that Sal Anthony's SPQR had closed. Now we've discovered it's under the ownership of the Criscitelli family, which owns 5 other joints on Mulberry Street: Pellegrino's, Novello, Il Palazzo, La Nonna, and Giuliani favourite Danico." If the name of the new owners sounds familiar, you may recall that Perry Criscitelli was forced to step down as San Gennaro head when he was said to be a made member of the Bonanno family, charges he denied. Perry's son Nick tells us he plans to return the restaurant to the fine dining they had when they originally opened 28 years ago. Perry Criscitelli's career as a Bonanno soldier appears to have been successful due to his abilities as a legitimate businessman. He could make vast amounts of money for his mob superiors, while staying away from the criminal activities which often resulted in his fellow mobsters being locked up. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.